Hey YouTube. So last week in the United States they had a cyber attack that shut down one of the largest pipelines across the United States. It disrupted 17 states and had massive fuel shortages across those states. Today we're going to be talking about the two different types of engines out there and the benefits and the cons to both of them. I don't believe that this was the only cyber attack that's going to happen. I think that there's going to be more disruptions in the supply chain, in the fuel system, and things of that nature coming down the pipeline. And I think it would be best if you understood the different types of engines out there that will get you through a shtf situation or a grid down situation. And so we're going to go through today. What I have on the far side is a black Chevy Silverado, which is a gasoline engine, and over here I have a Dodge pickup truck with a Cummins diesel engine in it. Essentially they're the same type of vehicle. They are a pickup truck, but what is underneath the hood is the big difference, and that might be the key to help you in another grid down situation or fuel shortage. Now behind me I have a Dodge pickup truck that is a diesel engine, and you don't often hear that there is a diesel shortage. You always hear that there's a gasoline shortage. Now why is that? In North America, the dominant engine type is a gasoline engine, and you need to ask yourself, why is that a popular choice out here? Because if you go to Europe, like I've gone before, you can see that you can pick up any car in North America, but in Europe it's in diesel. And about 80%, if not 90% of the vehicles in Europe are diesel and not gasoline. So what I'd like to talk to you about is the differences between the two different types of engines and the pros and cons of each of them. Now when it comes to a gasoline or diesel type of vehicle, the engine type will offset the purchase price right off the bat, hands down. Now if I were to buy, say, the Silverado in a diesel pickup truck with the same trim line and everything, I would be looking at about $10,000 to $15,000 more for a diesel engine than I would be for a gasoline engine like I have here now. The reason that a gasoline engine vehicle is a lot cheaper is because that they don't have to build them a certain type because of how a gasoline engine works. Whereas when you have a diesel vehicle, the engine has to be built a lot stronger with better material because it's based on compression. Now in order to build a diesel engine, you have to use a lot better materials for that compression inside the engine so that it can withstand all that pressure inside. Now you probably notice as you're driving around that all the big heavy trucks, they are all diesel engines. You will not find too often that a big truck is a gasoline engine. You do find propane also, but we're not going to be talking about that because the dominant engines in North America are a gasoline and a diesel engine. Now, you will get 20% more fuel mileage on a diesel engine than you will on a gasoline engine. However, that's not the only benefit that you get, but there's also cons to getting that better gas mileage when you do have a diesel engine. Now a gas engine, yes, it's cheaper, but it does have its also drawbacks that you don't get from a diesel engine. For instance, when you start up your gasoline vehicle, it will automatically rev at a higher RPM. Hence, it will give you more wear and tear on your engine right off the bat. Whereas a diesel engine revs at a lower RPM, and that way it has less wear and tear on the engine. Now another benefit to a gas engine than a diesel engine is that a gas engine, the parts are much cheaper. And the reason that is brings me back to the first point, is the way that they're built. A gas engine does not have to be built with the top quality products that a diesel engine needs to be built with. And so that it is more mass produced, there's more of a supply of it, and that way there is always a cheaper price point on the parts of a gas engine than a diesel engine. Also, to repair it, the mechanic cost is a lot more on a diesel engine than it is a mechanic or than a gasoline engine, because not all mechanics know how to work on diesel vehicles, because again, it's based on compression. And so if you are going to be going out to pay somebody to repair a diesel engine, you're going to be looking at that much more of a difference in price point just on the hourly service charge or labor than you will be on a gas engine. Now, if you live in a remote location, you really don't care about the cost of labor, because typically you're going to do your own labor yourself. So you're only going to be looking at the price point on the parts themselves. Now it brings me up to my next point: gas stations and where to fill them up. Next time you go to a gas station, keep in mind and check if they have a diesel pump there. Typically they're a yellow handle and they say diesel on them. Not all gas stations carry diesel, but all gas stations do carry gasoline, and they have various types of gasoline. So that is another reason many people prefer to go with a gasoline type of vehicle, because they don't have to actually go out and research where there is diesel fuel, where there is gasoline fuel only, and have to go to those certain spots. Especially if you're going on a road trip, you kind of just want to stop at the first gas station that you see, fill up, and continue on. With a diesel engine, you don't get that. Yes, you do get the extra gas mileage, but you have to also understand that you cannot decide that to go to any gas station to fill up, because they may not have diesel fuel. Now that brings me to my next point on fuel. When you run out of gas on a gasoline vehicle, you're kind of limited to what you can put into that type of fuel tank. You can only put gasoline, obviously. Now with a diesel engine, the newer models nowadays, they do have a fuel management system in there that doesn't allow you to do the things you can do with these older type of diesel engines. So you'll find a lot of the newer vehicles have a deleted fuel management system. That means that you don't have to put in the fuel cleaner, you don't have to put in all the additives, and now you can start running different types of fuel. Now, what type of fuel can you run in a diesel engine? Now, you can run biodiesel in a diesel engine. I've had a friend back home where he actually quit our electrical trade, and he had 7 McDonald's that were giving him free grease, and he would take that grease back to a warehouse where he would filter all that out and then run his diesel truck on that biodiesel. And after he had the whole setup ready to go, the fuel cost him 13 cents per gallon. And that, if you take that into consideration alone, that is just astronomical in savings. Now the next thing you can do is you can run what I've done actually before, because I used to have a Volkswagen Passat diesel that I once ran out of fuel, and I was out in the middle of the country because I was living out in the country at that point in my life. What I ended up doing was I walked down to the next farm and asked them for some diesel, and the farmer said, well, I have something better for you, and he hands me a jug of vegetable oil. And I didn't think about this. I've heard of it before, but I never did it, and I kind of laughed at him. I'm like, you're serious? He's like, yeah. He asked me about the vehicle, and I'm like, yeah, it's just a 96 Volkswagen Passat, and it's a TDI. And he's like, yeah, you should be no problem. And luckily I walked back to my car, dumped in that vegetable oil, and I fired up that car no problem, and ran no problem. And the only difference that I did notice is it smelled like French fries behind me as I was standing behind the exhaust pipe. So if you don't mind having some munchies as you're driving down the street, you can run some vegetable oil in your older diesel engines. Or if you have a newer truck and you have deleted the fuel management system in that truck or that vehicle itself. I'd like to touch on the newer vehicles and one of the additives that you have to put into these newer diesels to get them running and keep them running, or from what I understand, they just shut down and won't start until you put this additive, and that's called DEF or DEF. Now, one of the issues I have with DEF is that it is highly toxic, and it's actually really not good for humans to breathe in. And the reason that they put them into these vehicles is because they say that the emissions are better for the diesel engines nowadays. But when does the emissions matter when I'm still getting sick and breathing in these toxic fumes? And one of the items that they have in DEF is URA. Now, it's spelled U-R-E-A, so I don't know if I'm saying it right, URA or urea. But when you inject URA into hot exhaust fumes, urea thermally decomposes and then turns into ammonia. And everybody knows ammonia is not good to be breathing in, and it will cause you some irritations in the lungs, and if you are exposed to it long term, it'll give you pulmonary edema, and you absolutely don't want that. Actually, that kind of reminds me of people actually getting that now because of certain things that they're wearing on their faces, but we're gonna stay away from that. Now, another benefit and a reason that we got a diesel is because the towing capacity and the higher torque. So because of the way that a diesel engine is made, it automatically has higher torque, and torque is always better for towing. And for example, I brought up 4 fuel barrels with each truck since we've been up here, and I'll tell you right now, the diesel engine completely outperforms the gasoline engine. With those 4 45-gallon barrels, in that 100-liter tank, I used at least 50% of my gas. Whereas with the diesel one, I used about 3/8 of a tank. So right there is your huge benefit from your towing capacity. Now, another benefit of diesel is it has a longer shelf life than gasoline. Diesel is a lot more crude and doesn't go through as much of a refining process as gasoline does. And gasoline, I believe, has a shelf life of about 3 to 6 months maybe, where diesel, it can have years of shelf life, as long as you're also adding a couple additives in there just to keep it going that much longer. Now, one of the things I don't like about diesels, that everybody will tell you about diesels, is that they do not like cold weather. And now that we are living up here in the northern part of Canada, we will come into that problem. But if you can see at the bottom of the truck here, it does have a little plug-in, and that is for your block heater. Now, I also have a block heater for the Chevy. However, I've never needed to use it in the winter, and I've been in winters where it's been like -40 and I've had no problem starting it up. And I know with the diesels that they have a very hard time starting in the winter. And at one point I used to work out in the oil fields, and the guys out there all had diesel trucks running around, and some of them, what they do is they would just leave them running 24/7, and I'm not even kidding you. They'd go to they'd get to site, they'd keep it running all day, bouncing around from site, they'd go back to camp and let that truck run day in, day out, 24/7, because it does not like the cold and people didn't want to deal with it. Which brings me to another point, is that when they idle, the gasoline vehicles will use a lot more gas when idling than a diesel does. So you can kind of get away with it. To me, it's kind of wasted money, but in the oil fields, people have money to burn, so I guess they do what they want, right? Gas mileage is a huge one, even if you're not towing. Because you have better fuel efficiency in a diesel engine, I will be getting about 800 kilometers on my Dodge pickup truck, which is a 1-ton size pickup. So it's a lot bigger truck, it's a lot heavier truck, and I get better mileage than I do on the half-ton 1500 Chevy, where I will get about 400 kilometers on a hot summer day. And that is also a flex fuel truck, so it'll, on the highways, it'll drop down to 4-cylinder. But even with that, I don't know, like, I don't think it will do anywhere close to what a diesel engine will do. Maybe leave a comment in the section below if you have a 1500 and it's a diesel. Let me know what kind of fuel mileage you're getting. Maybe I'm mistaken here, but I don't think that even the smaller pickup truck can touch the gas mileage on a larger pickup truck. Now, the last point I'd like to bring up is the life on these engines, and how long will they last? So a gas engine will typically start kicking out around 250 to 300,000 kilometers. You're going to start having to replace a lot more parts and things of that nature. So they are known not to last a lot longer, and maybe that's one of the reasons that they are popular in North America, because you know in North America that everybody loves the consumer market and they just want you to buy. So here, buy these gas engines so that in about 10 years you can buy another one, because your engine's going to be shot and it's going to cost you more to repair than what it's worth. Now, on a diesel engine, the life on those, especially these Cummins diesels, I'm not sure about the new ones, but this is a 96 Cummins diesel, and right now I have about 300,000 kilometers on there. So if you compare it to, say, a gasoline truck, this engine would be near the end of its life, right? Even if I did try and repair as much as I could. But with these older diesel Cummins engines, they're known to hit 1,000,000 miles and with no issues. You might need to change some injectors on them. Very few people are talking about rebuilds. Now, if you chip your diesel trucks and make it perform a lot more and give it more turbo boost, yeah, you're gonna put more wear and tear on the vehicle itself. But if you run it stock, you could probably get easy 500,000 kilometers on a diesel truck. But these older ones, they're known to hit 1,000,000 plus, and then you might be looking at a rebuild. Thanks for tuning in with me today. I hope this helped you guys decide on a vehicle, because I don't think these fuel shortages are going to end, and I don't think the cyber attacks are going to end anytime soon. So if you're looking to get a new engine and you want to kind of help yourself in an SHTF situation, or a grid down, or a fuel shortage, you might want to think about going the diesel route rather than the gasoline, because gasoline also won't run out as fast as the gas at the fuel pumps, and so you'll be able to get gas a lot longer, diesel a lot longer. And if you run out of diesel, I'm sure you'll have some vegetable oil somewhere to pick up. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'll check you on the next one.